When I first started homeschooling, I knew that it was going to be definitely a transition for me and my children, especially because my oldest daughter was transferring from public school to homeschooling. But I made the mistake of assuming that as soon as we made that transition and picked out all of our curriculum, everything was going to be smooth sailing. We were going to love all of the curriculum choices, and I could not be more wrong. In today's video, I want to share with you my journey with picking homeschool curriculum and also what I plan to do in the future as far as choosing new curriculum for the upcoming school year. The first thing I did, which I highly recommend you do, is consult with friends and family that are already homeschooling. This was incredibly helpful for me in the beginning because I felt like I had a little bit of a community already, and I was able to ask them all the nitty-gritty questions about homeschooling. Now, when it came to curriculum, I was so thirsty for what resources and curriculum I was going to use, and that kind of consumed my thoughts, and it led me to not take some critical advice from my friends and family. So the first friend that I talked to, she recommended that I just take things slow, because my daughter was just coming out of kindergarten and she was making this big transition. So, she was saying to me, don't try to rush into things, really take your time to add things in. But I was begging her to share with me all of the things that she uses with her kids. So, of course, she gladly shared those things, and I went to my computer and I bought all the things, not even considering if it was going to work for my kid or not. So that was mistake number one. And then my cousin, who also homeschools and she's been doing it for a while, suggested that I take a look at a book called 102 Top Picks for Homeschool Curriculum, and that is written by Kathy Duffy. I highly recommend you check out Kathy Duffy's resources. I will share the link with you to her website in the description below, but I found it to be very, very helpful because Kathy Duffy provides thorough, all the details about lots of different curriculum options. But I will say, I got the book, and in the first part of the book, she takes you through all of these different prompts and charts to figure out what curriculum is going to fit best for you and also meet your child's learning needs. I did not take the time that I should have to go through this book, and I really missed out on a good opportunity to figure out what is going to be best for my kids. The second thing that I did was I ran to YouTube, and I wanted to particularly look for resources and curriculum for secular homeschooling. So this is something that I did decide at the very beginning. I didn't want curriculum that was Bible-based or anything like that, not because I'm not a Christian, I am, and I do want to incorporate biblical study in our homeschool, but I wanted it to be separate from the curriculum. So establishing that at the beginning was very helpful for me. So I definitely recommend that you also think about that as well. Do you want a religious aspect in the core curriculum that you're using, or do you want it to be more secular? So I found several homeschool mamas that are YouTubers that were very helpful for me. The first is Homeschool of Bel Air, then Mama Shmoo's Homeschool Reviews, Project Happy Home, and JDA. I will share links with you for all of their channels in the description below, but I truly found their flip-throughs and reviews and discussions about all of the curriculum to be so helpful for me in choosing what was going to work best for my kids. Now, at the time, like I said, I was kind of rushing into things, so I wish I would have taken the time to really think about whether or not this curriculum was going to fit with our needs. I kind of just saw the shiny new thing and gravitated towards it, and I wound up buying a lot of different types of curriculum, and I was really forcing my kid to do everything. So that was another mistake that I made. Another YouTube mama that I found helpful in the beginning was Akiba Mays, and she is a former reading teacher, a reading specialist. So she was the one that turned me on to teach your child to read in 100 easy lessons. But of course, I got that, and it really did not work for us. So now I want to talk about trial and error. This is something that is so hard for me to think about even now, and it's a hard pill to swallow when you're first starting to homeschool, because like me, you hope and pray that all of the money you invest in curriculum, all of the things that you're buying for your kids are going to work, and you don't have to go through the process of trying to figure that out all over again. But honestly, mamas, it's going to be a little bit of trial and error. There are going to be moments where you choose curriculum or a supplement that really doesn't work, and it's not worth you or your kids' time just trying to work at it, and it's just not happening. Something else that I did not consider in the beginning was learning approaches for homeschool. I fumbled through my last year of homeschooling trying to figure that out because I had not considered it in the beginning. And again, this is something that Kathy Duffy in her books and online really advocates that you figure out. So in the end, what wound up happening is I decided, hey, we're gonna unschool, because all of the curriculum, all the things that I chose, all the things that we were doing was just not working, and I was getting really frustrated. And so we just kind of tossed a lot of things out the window. I still kept everything just to make sure I still had it on hand. But we just kind of went full throttle into unschooling, which for us included free play and exploration, as well as some hands-on activities that I created for the kids to do. It wasn't terrible, but what I realized is I did not do it because I thought it was going to be a great experience for the kids. I did it because I was struggling with mental health issues. I was struggling with my daughter to, get her to learn things and have her sit down and do the things. And it was me just kind of throwing up my hands. So I wouldn't recommend that you go and unschool for that reason, but really look into the learning approach and see if it works well for you, because that is going to really give you an idea of what kind of curriculum you're going to use, or if you're going to use curriculum at all. So learning approaches was a really helpful thing for me to get a hold on, a grasp on, before I started to dive into curriculum again. I figured out that I am an eclectic homeschooler. We pull from different learning approaches. For us in particular, we do still do unschooling, and that is primarily for things like science and history, where we don't have a core curriculum for those things. We just go to the library a lot. We grab books that are of interest to us. And then for our core curriculum, we do use some traditional curriculum that you might see in schools, but the curriculum works for us. It's fantastic. It's very interactive, and I can kind of Montessorify it, which is the other approach that we're using. So we're using Montessori as well. As I was going back to the drawing board and eating a couple of slices of humble pie, I realized that I also just needed to reassess the curriculum that we already had, because when I threw it all away in my mind, I didn't take the time to assess if it was just the curriculum that was bad, or, if it was a behavioral issue with my daughter, and it wound up being a mix of things. So I would say for Singapore Dementia's Math, which we use now and we love, I realized that we don't have to do every single problem or every single equation that is set before us. So there are some things that I would put out for my child to do independently in her workbook, and it was just so tedious. She was doing the same type of problems over and over and over again, and she was reluctant to do it because for her, a lot of those things were pretty easy. And then when she came across something that was particularly challenging, she just completely fell apart. So what I do now is I will go through whatever she's working on ahead of time and kind of circle the things that I want her to practice, that I know that she needs more practice on. Like I said before, Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons was a for us. And last year I also chose level K of the Good and the Beautiful for language arts. and that was also not a good fit. So again, these things happen. You have to assess and reassess all of the curriculum that you're using to figure out what the pros and cons are and whether or not it's worth keeping. Summer Myers, who is another homeschooling mama, has a fantastic video about whether or not you should keep or toss a curriculum, and I will link her video as well as her channel for you below. When I finally took a step back to reassess all of our curriculum and assess what my kids' learning needs were, I was able to start building up our core curriculum again. And I went back and took my friend's advice that I mentioned in the beginning and started really slow. So at the start of this school year, I decided that we were just going to narrowly focus on reading and math, and that was so helpful for us. We recently started to add more things back, more books, more supplements, and I still am trying to be very, very observant of what my kids need and what's working and not working for us so that I don't overwhelm myself and I don't overwhelm them. Now I'm going to share with you how I plan to choose curriculum for this upcoming school year. As I mentioned already, I'm going to be doing a complete reassessment of all of our core curriculum and supplements, and specifically I'm going to ask myself the following questions. Is the curriculum serving us well? If so, how? How has it helped us to achieve our learning goals and overall homeschool mission and vision? And finally, I'm going to take note of all the pros and the cons for each of the curriculum that we used this past year. Next, I'm going to seriously consider Kathy Duffy's reviews, and specifically, I'm going to purchase her ebook on how to choose homeschool curriculum. So I'm hoping that this is going to be a helpful resource for me. It's pretty cheap if you're interested. It's about $9, like $8.99. Last but not least, I will be going back to YouTube and searching for flip throughs and curriculum reviews because again, I just found it so helpful. I'm hoping that going through these 3 steps in sequential order is going to help me narrow things down and really figure out what's going to work best for us for the upcoming school year. In a few weeks, I'm going to start sharing with you all the things that we do to teach my kids reading and math for each of their grade levels. So we're going to talk about the curriculum that we use, the activities that we do, and so on. So be on the lookout for those videos. Take care, be blessed, and I'll see you in the next one.